And what was that path to publication for you for your first novel and as a writer?
It was crazy and long. Let's see if we have enough time. I'll try not to talk too fast. But I was a legal secretary at a big corporation at the time in Walnut Creek, California, and I was on leave of absence and pregnant with my fourth child. And I was bored out of my mind. I think I was watching a soap opera and just bored to death. And my sister handed me my first romance. I'd never read a romance, and she handed me Jude Devereaux's A Knight in Shining Armor. And I'm telling you, it just took me to another place, another time. And it was so amazing that escapism I experienced that day that I started writing that day. I literally started writing that day. That first book, I decided, of course, to write a medieval time travel, which took the whole process took me 5 years because of all the research I had to do. I didn't have a computer. There was no Google. If there was, I didn't know about it. So I'd go to the library, and it took me 5 years to write my first novel. And then I decided, okay, now what do I do next? I went to the library. I found a book that listed all the agents and editors, and I started sending it off. And I celebrated my first rejection because I'd read that was part of the process. That's what happened. So I was super excited. Okay, got that under my belt. And then I wrote another time travel, and then I signed with an agent, and that was exciting. I thought, okay, I'm going to get published soon. So now I'm maybe 7 years into it, and then I joined RWA, and I went to some conferences. I didn't have very much money, so I stayed with authors in hotel rooms, people I'd never met. And I would just run from workshop to workshop, just learning everything about point of view and dialogue and I mean, really, I was working hard and I was writing every day. And like I said, I had 4 kids, and suddenly I was a stay at home mom because daycare was so expensive. It was cheaper for me to stay at home. And I wasn't the type of woman that wanted to stay home with 4 kids. So the writing kind of saved me there. But I really didn't think it was going to take that long. And by now I'm going like 10 or 15 years. Um,
And were you getting rejections during all this time?
I was getting rejections, and my husband would hate bringing me the mail because there's usually a rejection in there. But I had
And what kept you
been
going? I mean, that's a long time.
a long time. You know what kept me going was these contests. RWA had the Golden Heart for unpublished writers.
Hmm.
I was nominated six. I have six awards but I never won. I was always nominated 6 times though. So those kind of things kept me going. And then I would cry. I would get a rejection. I would cry. I I don't know why I was so determined, but once I started writing that day back when I read that book, I was determined. I wanted to see my books on the shelves. It was never about money because I actually by then was critiquing with other published authors, and I knew that they weren't making a lot of money.
Right.
So I was thinking, my husband and I would joke, okay, if I could make 5,000, 10,000 in a year, we could go on vacation. Um, and I tried quitting because I was very frustrated. It was probably 15 to 18 years into it. And I was just like, okay, this is dumb. I don't think I do want to write for no reason. And so I quit for 6 months. I couldn't do it. I wasn't happy. And that's when I realized, okay, I'm going to write for me. I'm not writing to get my books on the shelves. I'm writing for me, and I'm never going to stop, but I'm still going to try to get published. And I just stayed determined. I don't know how.
And so what? I mean, you talked about getting cry when you were rejected, and you're talking about, I think you said 15 or 18 years. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what? Tell me about your first book that was published. That must have been like an amazing experience.
Oh my
What
gosh,
happened?
2009, my husband told me to self-publish, and I thought that was cheating at the time. No, nope, I'm doing this the right way. There's, one of those publishers is going to take me. And by then, I had signed with my second agent, and we almost sold to, I believe it was Grand Central. and I worked with an editor there. I added 20,000 words, and then crickets, nothing happened. And so those kind of things, it was like, okay, this is crazy. And I would get really close. And then in 2011, I'm with my second agent still, and I decided that fourth child that I was pregnant with was going off to college, and I needed to make money, and I had no reason to stay home anymore. So I was going to get a job. You've had your chance. And I decided I'm going to self-publish. I saw that a lot of my author friends, well, a few of them had done it. And I knew my agent wasn't interested in my romance. Because once I saw Lisa Gardner had switched during that 18-year time frame. Lisa Gardner had switched from writing romance to thrillers. And I thought, I'm going to try it. And that was huge. That was a big turning point because doing the serial killer, killing off characters, that was very therapeutic, and that helped me keep going. And I love to read thrillers, so it all kind of made sense that I would write them. And that really kept me going, and that's when I think I found my voice. And that was a huge big deal. I'm sorry, I'm getting to your question.
No, no, I'm loving it. Keep going.
Okay. And then, so my agent, I told her, well, you're not interested in my romance. I'm going to self-publish that. And she said, fine. And so I learned HTML. There were no formatters that I know of at the time out there that you could buy, have format your book. And I found someone make me a cover for $50. And I did my own HTML coding to get the book up on Amazon. And those books started selling like crazy. My husband couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. It was, you don't get paid for 60 days. So it was hard to believe this was really happening until you actually saw a dime in your account. Mm-hmm. But I was selling thousands, 30,000 books in a month. It was crazy. And it was so much fun and so exciting to know that I could have readers decide, because I'd always felt like there was 5 editors in New York deciding who was published. And forget that. Let readers decide. So I told my agent, okay, I'm parting ways, because I want to put my thriller up there, because by then I loved it. I'd finished it. And she did like my thriller, but she wanted to sell it to a publisher I wasn't interested in. So I put that was the game changer, Jeff. That book, Abducted, my Lizzie Gardner series, it stayed in the top 20 for months. And that's when all these publishers that have rejected me started emailing me. And I'm like, and Amazon emailed me. And I had sold at this time, I think it was 2012. So I had already been selling some of those romance and just started selling this thriller. And I realized, okay, that I found my niche. It just took me 20 years. And I had sold 350,000 books on my own. And I thought that was such crazy. It's just still surreal to me. And